I don't think I do. All right, we're going to the beach.
Why do you keep not?
Why don't you read it? Because now I'm holding the dog. I feel weak today.
You feel weak today?
Yeah, and I think that anybody that's watching prefers you reading anyway. Like the special.
Okay, well, you feel weak. What does weak mean? What do you mean you feel weak today? Is there more to
I'm
that?
probably making an excuse to not do something that I'm supposed to do.
Okay. So it's not like there's more behind that?
I asked the questions around.
Are you okay?
I okay.
Do you need to talk to somebody?
Are you okay?
Are you doing all right?
I'm doing okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's an implementation of our lives is in the morning and then in the evening. Asking where was I fearful, dishonest, self-seeking, and resentful. Resentful could be feeling sorry for myself. That's inward resentment. Mm-hmm. The plums. Poor little old me. Why, are you okay?
Wasn't about me. This was about you saying that you feel weak
feeling
today.
Weak. All right, let's get it on, mama.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Getting it all out. Let yourself have a good gripe session. That is from Women, Sex, and Addiction by Charlotte Davis, PhD. It's a book, I guess. I have not read it. Get it out. Go ahead. Get it all out. Once we begin recovery, we may feel like it's not okay to gripe and complain. We may tell ourselves that if we were working a really good program, we wouldn't need to complain. What does that mean? We won't have feelings. We won't feel overwhelmed. We won't need to blow off steam or work through some not so pleasant, not so perfect, and not so pretty parts of life. We can let ourselves get our feelings out, take risks, and be vulnerable with others. We don't have to be all put together all the time. That sounds more like codependency than recovery. Getting it all out doesn't mean we need to be victims. It doesn't mean we need to revel in our misery, finding status in our martyrdom. It doesn't mean we won't go on to set boundaries. It doesn't mean we won't take care of ourselves. Sometimes getting it all out is an essential part of taking care of ourselves. We can reach a point of surrender so we can move forward. Self-disclosure does not mean only quietly reporting our feelings. It means we occasionally take the risk to share our human side, the side with fears, sadness, hurt, rage, unreasonable anger, weariness, or lack of faith. We can let our humanity show. In the process, we give others permission to be human too. Together, people have their not-so-together moments. Sometimes falling apart, getting it all out, is how we put back together. Today, I will let it all out if I need a release.
That's good.
So I was writing, or I listened to something this morning. One of my podcasts things came up, and it said how to pray when you're sad. And I thought, and I know that her podcasts are super short, and so I wanted to listen to it. And actually, I really felt like it really resonated with me because I have been feeling really sad, and I have been feeling lots of things, and I think I even said to you yesterday, like, I'm trying to figure out like what's mine and what's not mine, and what's appropriate emotion and what's like too much emotion for this situation. And I described it to someone yesterday as feeling like there was a ton of like little fires all around me, or big fires. Some of them are really big fires, but they're like around me. They're not my fires, and so it's not my responsibility to put them out, but like it's like the smoke is singeing my nostrils, and that I can feel the heat on my arms, and I don't know if I'm supposed to pull away or if I'm supposed to move towards. And the description I actually said that to someone yesterday, and then when I listened to the podcast this morning, her analogy was actually about fire, and she was talking about like how the heat of fires and how a house across the street had burned down, and she said burned down isn't even the right description. A house doesn't burn down, it actually burns like out, and so from the outside it looks fine lots of times, but the smoke has destroyed everything. And the thing that stuck with me was that we need to have grace for the middle parts of our stories. We can't always expect this like happy ending. story, which is, it totally resonates with me because we have the happy ending story, but when you just look at the happy ending story, it looks really simple.
It's not ended.
It's not ended, but we went through like the hardship and everything turned out really great, and that's not always the story. And so how do we have grace for the middle, like the really hard parts, the sad parts, the hurting parts, and
I like your low fires, and I like the fact of taking responsibility for the appropriate emotion and then being able to release it. And I think that's why we need community, is to be able to release things in healthy ways. And we can make mistakes in that. And if we have people that we love around us, then it's okay to overlook stuff. We're experiencing some major losses in the last couple this week. And so we need to process it. We need to talk about it. I know that I was on the phone yesterday with a few people just talking about it. You know, you ask questions why and how, and like just all these things that it's almost unbelievable. Like the loss of life is like so heavy that we need to be able to get it out. And then the other side of this is on the 12-step side. I would make the strong suggestion that we don't do that in 12-step meetings, because the 12-step meeting is predominantly for a newcomer. And so we really want to share the spiritual experience, our strength and our hope with people. The hope is that the outside of the world doesn't have to change, but we get to change through the power of God. And so we really have to be careful in a 12-step setting, not to unload and go, I feel so much better now. Thank you for this meeting. I just vomited on everybody.
And everybody else.
And so that's not
awful.
okay to do that. And I think treatment centers kind of encourage that and make that a thing, but it's not helpful for the newcomer. So really stick to having your people, to be able to having a sponsor, having people in your corner, your cheerleaders, to be able to have time one-on-one and to be able to actually expel that stuff, because you don't want it residual. You don't want to stuff it down and pretend it's not there. But there's appropriate, responsible ways of doing that. And so we don't want to hurt the newcomer at a 12-step meeting. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah, but I totally agree. And I think that the most appropriate thing and the only thing that made sense for me was actually when I stopped going to friends to vent, and actually started praying and praying, and sometimes out loud, and sometimes like really loudly out loud, just being in sorrow and or griping and complaining, and it felt crazy when I first started doing it, but I recognized this thing that happened, that if I went to a friend or went to my mom or whoever, and I have this like major thing about you that I'm unpacking, if I have reconciliation with you, they don't have the same reconciliation.
Yeah.
And so it was super unhealthy, and I think that example applies also when you're talking like the 12-step meeting. So that person just dumped all over everybody, and everybody leaves feeling icky, and maybe that person, like, it all sorts itself out or they work through it, but then like everyone's left feeling icky, and that can't be our goal, to just leave everybody feeling icky. And so I think inviting prayer and inviting God into it, because there's so much scripture that is actually about lament and sadness and sorrow.
Well, and then you go into, what do we do at night? What are the 4 questions we ask at night? So where were we fearful? And a lot of it is fear-based. A lot of it is, I feel sad. So then we can put that on the person that we have to tell that to. And so it's planned, responsible. It's not shoving down. It's not going, I'm super spiritually Christian and I'm just going to deal with this with God. And I don't need anybody. So there's I like the language of responsibility.
It's good.
I think that's good. All right.
Today, let it all out.
Chaos is happening all around us. The front, the back.
Have a good day.
People are coming into our house. What's happening? We should wake up earlier.
We should.
Who is it? Oh, look who it is. Come on.
No,
come
just
over
shut
here.
it off.
It's JoJo Beats. There's you.